Hello and welcome to our fourth and final webinar on meeting the complex needs of our clients. In this session, we'll look at incorporating lifespan development and sociological concepts into leisure and health programming. We'll focus on identifying the lifespan developmental stages of the clients, identifying how the Australian social context of leisure might impact on client participation, and identifying strategies for participation. We will begin this session by talking about the importance of being able to identify relevant aspects of human, physical, social, and intellectual development according to a client's lifespan developmental stage. The lifespan developmental stages include infancy, early childhood, adolescence, adulthood, including early, middle and late adulthood, and then the elderly. Formal developmental theories provide us with accurate and reliable knowledge about the way people grow, develop and learn at the beginning of life and how their physical and cognitive function changes towards the end of life. However, there are many different theories and no single theory can completely explain how humans develop. Despite their differences, all developmental theories have some key points in common. Let's have a look at these now. First of all, development occurs in stages, and these stages are generally related to a person's age. One stage of development lays the foundations for later stages of development. A person's developmental progress from simple to complex, from proximal, which is close to the body, to distal, further away from the body, and from general to specific, is in predictable sequence. There are no optimal periods in development. Development results from an interaction of both biological and environmental factors. So that's an interesting one when it comes to biological and environmental factors. Have you ever heard of nurture versus nature? What this is talking about when they talk about nurture versus nature, when it comes to a person's development, is if it is the nurture, which is the environment the person grows up in, or whether it's the nature, the person's genetics and biology, that impacts more greatly on a person's development. Another key area of development is one area of development affects and influences other areas of development. A person develops in the physical, social and intellectual areas, but also in many other areas as well. Let's now take a closer look at the human, physical, social and intellectual development across these stages of the lifespan. First of all, the development of infants includes concepts such as attachment and bonding, emotional development, which includes things from excitement to jealousy, gross motor skills such as rolling, crawling and then walking, language development, memory, reflexes, relationship development and spatial awareness. The development of toddlers includes concepts such as beginnings of independence, cause and effect, completion of simple puzzles, fine motor skills such as pencil grip and using scissors, self-feeding, speech, temper tantrums. I'm sure all of you are well aware of the 2-year-old temper tantrums for anyone that has children or grandchildren. Gross motor skills such as walking, running, climbing and even riding a tricycle. They learn love and affection. They learn to play alongside other children. Their physical growth will slow down and they learn to be toilet trained. The development of preschoolers includes concepts such as development of fears. So they may become scared of the dark, or if they see an accident or something like that. They can become selfish. They often have endless questions. The development of fine motor skills can include cutting, painting and drawing. Their gross motor skills can include things such as running, climbing, jumping, throwing and catching. There's an increase in their language skills, They chatter more and they can sing along to songs and remember the songs. They need to explore within a safe environment or feel safe. Their physical growth increases. They play with other children and actively look for friends and playmates. They require acceptance and encouragement from both their peers and adults, and they can have creative imaginations. For the development of school-aged children, these can include things such as abstract, more flexible thoughts, fear, depression and detachment, generosity towards others, height, weight and changes within their body's proportion as they grow. They can be helpful, independent, participate within a team, be active problem solvers, and have recognition of a person's individual needs. Their self-esteem and their coordination also build. For the development of adolescence, it can include things such as abstract thinking, appreciation for double meanings, changes in height and weight as they continue to grow. They may begin to date and experience their first rejection and or their first love. They may begin to experience additional freedom from their parents as they become more independent. They form their own personal identity. Their muscles develop, they go through puberty, and their self-image develops as well. The development of early, middle and older adults may include developing a career, so therefore they become economically independent, may find a partner, get married, or have marriage regret and therefore divorce. They may become a parent or a grandparent. Their children may grow up and leave home, which leaves the empty nest, as they say. For females, they'll go through menopause. On retirement, some older adults decide to participate in community work and volunteer. They may contribute to society and for future generations. There may be increased deaths within the family as they become older, and they may retire, as we just discussed. The development of the elderly may include decline in physical health and or their abilities, increasing dependence on others, and therefore a change in their living arrangements, such as moving into a residential aged care facility. There may be potential loss of a partner, bereavement, loneliness and social isolation. There'll be changes within their social circles and hobbies as their health deteriorates and as people within their social circles become unwell themselves and may even die. And there'll be thoughts about and they'll be planning for their own death. So you can see that throughout all the stages, people continue to develop. Often when people think about development, they only think about babies and small children. But even older adults and the elderly are continuing to develop. Whilst going through this webinar, and also to assist you when you're completing with your assessment, it's important that you understand some of the following terms. So let's look at this. The first one is sociology. This is the study of development, structure, and the function within human society. Society is a group of people living together in an organised community. Social structure is the pattern of relationships among people within society. For example, one of these patterns is socio-economic status. Socio-economic status is a measure of a person or society's economic and social position in relation to others. Culture is the ideas, customs and social behaviour of people or social groups. Gender. I'm sure you'll know what this means, but the definition includes characteristics pertaining to masculinity or femininity. Then we've got transcultural. This relates to or involves one or more cultures. Institutions. This is structures which provide social order within a society. And finally, power. This is the capacity to influence or direct the behaviour of others or the course of events within a society. When working as a member of the leisure and health team, it's important that you have a good understanding of the concept of disability. A disability can be defined as a physical and/or mental condition that limits a person. For example, in terms of their movement, senses, and their activities they can participate in. It's important that we understand our clients in a socio-cultural perspective, as this allows us to understand a person's surroundings and how these surroundings impact their behaviours. When developing leisure programs for a client with a disability, you can apply these socio-cultural theories by attempting to understand the person holistically, that is, in a complete way, in the context in which they exist, and by using this understanding to develop a leisure activity program consistent with a client's socio-cultural needs. It's important that you're able to identify the relationship between a client's lifespan developmental stage and their needs, interests, and skills. Needs are something that is required or is often a necessity. Interests are something that excites the attention, curiosity, or creates a feeling of wanting to learn. And skills are something that a person can do well or has expertise in. It's important that a person's needs, interests, and skills change accordingly to their lifespan development stage that they're in. These differences can occur in a variety of different ways. Let's have a look at some examples. In terms of needs, infants need assistance with feeding, but toddlers need to be more independent with feeding. Growing children and adolescents may require greater amounts of healthier fats in their diets, while adults need less fat in their diets. In terms of interests, adolescents may be more interested in going out and exploring the world, while adults may be interested in settling down in a stable home. Adolescents may be more interested in popular culture such as music, movies, books, etc., while the elderly may have more interest in family and friends. In terms of skills, children are often developing basic life skills such as toileting, dressing, and communication, while adolescents and adults are more likely to develop skills in relation to their career and/or a hobby. In considering a person's needs, interests, and skills across a lifespan, it's also important that you consider the concept of individual difference. Basically, this recognises that each person is unique. This may mean, for example, that an 8-year-old person and an 88-year-old person may have the same needs, interests, and skills as each other. Similarly, two 40-year-old people may have very different needs, interests, and skills from each other. So it's important that you always treat your clients as individuals. As leisure and health workers, it's important that you're able to identify the behaviours of your clients consistent within the lifespan development stage that they're at. A client's behaviour will often be driven by matters and issues that they face at different stages of the lifespan. For example, young children are often very explorative as they seek to understand their world and the skills that they thrive within it. For example, older people may be widowed, live alone, or in residential care, experience financial insecurity and more chronic illness, multiple disabilities, and greater health service use. Furthermore, older people are often marginalised or regarded as socially invisible within Australian society. Violence against older people has been increasing, but it's still underreported, according to the Australian Government Department of Health in 2011. Remember, a client's behaviours will often be driven by the matters and issues they face at the different stages of their lifespan. Again, when working with clients, it's important that you consider the concept of individual difference. Let's now look at why it's important that you are able to identify cognitive processes of the client which may impact on the development stage across the lifespan. It is important that you have a fundamental understanding of the human cognitive processes, including things such as memory. This term describes the process involving in enabling a person's mind to store and remember information from the past. Decision making. This is the process of making choices and drawing conclusions, etc. Reasoning. This is the process of thinking about something in a logical and sensible way. Communicating. This is to share or exchange news and information or ideas with another person. Communication may take place in a variety of different formats that we've discussed in previous webinars. In addition to human cognitive processes, as we've just discussed, it's important that you have a basic understanding of the human memory, including procedural memory. This is the part of a person's long-term memory which is concerned with motor skills, so knowing how to do things. It involves a person's ability to store information about how they perform a certain procedure. Then there's episodic memory. This is the part of a person's long-term memory which is concerned with autobiographical events such as times, places, and emotions attached to these events. Then there's semantic memory. This is the part of a person's long-term memory which is concerned with the processing of ideas and concepts which are not drawn from personal experience. It's this part of a person's memory which assists them to remember abstract concepts such as the names of colours, sounds, of letters, etc. Once you've identified the cognitive processes of a client, which may impact on their developmental stage across the lifespan, it's important that you monitor these and report any changes within your client's memory to your supervisor. We are now going to look at the importance of considering microculture of a workplace and the impact of healthcare provisions to workers and clients. Workplaces can have a significant impact on a person's health. In particular, long periods of problems such as stress related to excessive work demands can have a significant impact on a person's physical and psychological health. However, workplaces are being increasingly recognised as a mechanism that can support a person to improve their health. This is particularly true if a workplace has a microculture which is committed to the health and well-being of its employees. A workplace may demonstrate this commitment by, for example, permitting its employees to have flexible working arrangements, high levels of autonomy, promoting health nutritional intake, physical activity, and providing services that will support their staff. One thing I can think of that used to happen at an aged care facility that I worked at was when the staff were due to have their lunch. Staff would either go for an early lunch or a late lunch, so that there was always staff on the floor. But each group of staff that was either on an early lunch or a late lunch would be given the opportunity to participate in a walking group to promote physical exercise and health within the aged care facility. It's important you're able to identify the role of leisure in a range of different contexts as part of everyday life for our clients. Leisure plays a variety of important roles in everyday life, including providing opportunity for relaxation and reducing experience of stress, enabling a person to engage in something they consider to be beneficial, and providing opportunities for social contact and connection within the broader community. It's important that you bear in mind that leisure activities can take place in a variety of different settings. Many people's leisure time is unconstructed and unorganised and incorporated into a broader daily activities at home, at work, or within the community. Some people also enjoy participating in leisure activities at set times and set locations. It's important that you're able to identify different approaches to leisure at different stages of the life cycle and how these impact on clients. At different stages of the lifespan, people may have different approaches to leisure in terms of how they participate in the activity, if the activity is active or passive, if the activity takes place indoors or outdoors, if the activities are new or familiar to the client, if the types of people at the activity are also participating, the commitment, costs, time, etc. involved in the activity, and the meaning they apply to leisure and why they participate in activities. Again, when working with clients, it's important that you consider the concept of individual difference, as this will be applicable to all clients that you work with. It's important that you're aware of the ways in which specific groups in Australia approach leisure and how these approaches are shaped by society in which they live. Leisure has a close connection to culture. Different groups in Australia approach leisure in a variety of different ways, and these approaches are shaped by the society in which they live. Let's have a look at some examples. Many social groups have significant values when it comes to family and community, and will therefore participate in group-based leisure activities, such as cultural celebrations. Some communities are limited in terms of formal leisure opportunities provided to them, and/or the financial resources that are required to participate in formal leisure activities. So people in these communities will often participate in informal leisure activities and use public spaces such as parks to do so. Some communities have an abundance of cultural venues and events that provide people with diverse leisure activities. Some people have the opportunity to participate in leisure activities in large groups, such as at sporting matches, while others will participate in leisure activities alone. This may be due to lack of opportunity or their personal preference. It's important that you're aware of the social context of health and leisure to the development of leisure activity programs. The social context of leisure, that is, the concept when it comes to social settings and the background in which the leisure activity takes place, may include leisure and work, leisure and family, leisure in the life cycle, leisure roles and socialisation, leisure provision for older people, the impact of microculture on leisure, as we've just discussed a little bit about the microculture setting of a workplace, and the impact of life experience on leisure. Clearly, the social context of health and leisure can have significant impacts on the development of activity programs. For example, people may be unable to participate in leisure activities at certain times because of work or other family commitments. And depending on the lifespan stage they're in, people may participate in leisure activities for different reasons. It's important when working in leisure and health that you're also aware of a client's perception of illness, disability and wellness. These perceptions can include concepts such as the ways in which people define health, varying individual beliefs about health, the holistic nature of wellness, the factors and activities believed to impact on wellness, the relationship between the concept of health, wellness and illness, and acceptable strategies for wellness and health promotion. Perceptions of illness and disability can include things such as varying social perceptions of disability, the ways in which these perceptions are reinforced, the impact of these perceptions on a person with a disability, protective and inclusive legislation which impacts on leisure service delivery, and strategies for facilitating the inclusion of all clients. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. It is important that you realise that different people will have different understandings to what it means to be healthy or to have a well-being. I would like to thank you for your time and your participation in this webinar. Continue now by watching this video on the medical and social models of disability.